Hearing and seeing none, declare that closed. I need a motion to go into closed session. Moved by Councillor McHugh. I need a seconder. Councillor Sharp. We'll go into closed session and then we'll be back. And we shouldn't be long, but I can't guarantee it, but we'll do our best. Okay. Thank you very much for being here this evening, and we're starting at our open session at 5 o'clock, almost. So we'll begin with the Indigenous and land. We'll stand up, but I'll just tell you the process. Indigenous land acknowledgement, and then the national anthem, and then we'll have opening remarks, and then announcements, and we'll make some comments, and we will stand for a moment of silence in recognition of the passing of Councillor Reed, and also former Murray Township Reeve and Warden of Northumberland County, Brenda Weiss. So we'll cover those. Thank you very much. So please stand.
We begin this meeting by acknowledging that Quinte West is on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, there have been Indigenous peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte First Nation. This territory is covered by numerous treaties. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. This acknowledgement serves as recognition of the contributions and historical significance of Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, and demonstrates our collective commitment to meet the promises and address the challenges of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission within our community.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to take a minute to recognize people who have worked hard for the municipality, and they're spending a lot of time on council and attending meetings, and Councillor Reed was certainly no exception. He was very dedicated to the city of Quinte West and the village of Frankfurt, and he made sure that things were done well and done for the best of the whole city, and he worked hard at that, and he also sat close to Councillor McHugh, and you can tell that Councillor McHugh loved the candies that Councillor Reed brought to council. So yes, and other things as well, but and not just Councillor McHugh, but I'm picking on him because he's got a red shirt on otherwise. But yes, memories we have, and also former Reeve of Murray Township and Warden of the County of Northumberland, Brenda Reese, passed recently, and Councillor Allier and I worked with her for a good many years, and she was a dedicated municipal politician, worked hard to make the township of Murray a better place to live and a better place to do business, and so on. So I cherish the memories, and I ask that they rest in peace, and that we continue. So if, I'll give any member of council a chance now, if you'd like to make a comment, just turn your mic on and go ahead. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, indeed, Councilor Reed did keep me supplied in candies here, as does my good friend sitting to my right. He's taken over from Councilor David O'Neill from time to time.
Well,
Offers
his
me a
are
treat.
after he eats
I know. But I have two things, and it's ironic that we're dealing with two deceased here that I knew very well over the years. When I first came to council the first time, I remember Keith graciously walked me aboard, and he always greeted me with the saying, "How are you today, my boy?" Always my boy. And I was honored with that. And one of the very first people to call me with a request to have something done was Brenda Weiss herself when I first got elected, and Director Angela took care of that. I had to deal with a shrub that was blocking the view. She went around the corner in a little wee car that she drove. So I would take connection with them both. We've been good friends with Linda and Keith, visit there many a time, and I especially enjoyed seeing him because of my interest in old cars, in his car that he was so proud of at the Christmas parades in Frankfurt. So Linda, her daughters, the entire family, condolences from Margaret and I. We've already called and spoken with her. But yeah, great diplomat. He sat here and he mentored me for my first 4 years. So miss him, honestly. But I'm so pleased also at the same time that his wife followed in his footsteps. She too is doing a great job for this great city of ours. So God bless to both of them, to Keith and to Brenda Weiss as well. Two great citizens of the city of Quinte West. Will be missed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting this. Just give me a minute. Oh, it happens.
I can go, Mr. Mayor.
I just want to say that he was such a good counselor, and I know that those that have worked with him for many years, he called you your boy, but he called me your girl. And I think everyone in this room got that. When he walked in with tidbits, he was always giving little snacks. And he drove around with his yellow truck, checking out the roads, checking out the parks, checking out the trees, checking out the community. He was such a good counselor and a good person. And he always had the fireworks in their backyard. And, such a loving father and friend to many, and certainly with Linda. And, for those that didn't know, he had rheumatoid arthritis for over 40 years, and he never complained. He was out there doing his job, meeting his people, and working so hard, and I just thought he was a heck of a person. So I'm sorry I'm struggling, but I felt it important because to Linda and all the family and the staff, I know they all worked with Keith, and he was very good to the staff team. So our condolences from John.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Boyce?
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to give a perspective about Keith on how other municipalities saw Keith. And Keith and I sat together on the Hastings County Board, along with Dave McHugh and Karen. And I remember, when Dave says, "How you today, my boy?" That was the same to us in Belleville too. He would say the exact same thing. And we often wondered in Belleville, we'd walk into the meetings and there was Karen and Dave and Keith with the biggest smiles on their faces. And I often wonder, they're coming into these meetings and they've got the love of the committees, but just the smiles and the enthusiasm. And I remember when Dave gave me a shirt actually from Quinte West years ago, and I thought, if they're really having that much fun in Quinte West, I want to be here too, right? So Keith always was friendly to everyone that he saw from other municipalities, and he was well respected by the other municipalities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Katsovas, I
Thank
need
you.
to turn on my mic. Sorry.
In my experience working with Keith Reed, he never lost his temper and he didn't make enemies, which is very rare in politics. And it was an absolute pleasure to work with him.
Yes, I just want to reiterate pretty much what everybody else has said. I was fortunate enough to sit with Keith in all the terms that he was here. He was certainly an honorable gentleman, a great person to work with, certainly dedicated to the Frankfurt area, but also to the rest of the city. And yes, that's my favorite member of him is my boy. How are you today? Everybody was my boy until he talked to the ladies. Of course, it was something different. But he was a very honorable person, that was for sure, and down to earth and common sense. And I know he's kind of gone through hell, unfortunately, with his health the last few years here, but I hope he's in a better place now, and we'll hope he rests in peace, and wish our condolences to Linda and all the family. I know Pat and I have had a chat with her and passed along our concerns and anything we can help him with. And as far as Ms. Weiss, I served 3 terms with her on Murray Council, and she was always a hardworking, dedicated person to our area, and it was always a pleasure to work with her. As the mayor says, he and I both did work right up till the end of Murray Township, I guess, in the formation of Quinte West. But anyway, she was a very hard-working and dedicated person, and we wish our condolences to that family also. Thank you.
Councillor Quinte.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. When I first joined council, Keith was welcomed me right from the beginning as an equal. He showed that he was very opinionated on what he thought things or the way things should be, and always voted that way. And I was always glad to know that he was going to let me know where he stood on any issues, either in advance or during the meetings, and he always held true to that. And when he decided to retire from council, I felt really strong that at least one member of council should have a yellow truck. So I went out and got a yellow truck to make sure that at least one of us had a yellow truck. It always made me smile to know that yes, I knew he drove around Frankfurt and other places of the city, keeping an eye out and reporting back to the staff or other members of council if he saw something that needed to be tended to or done. So it was always a great pleasure working with him, because you knew exactly where he was coming from and why he was coming from, whatever that direction might be or his thoughts. So thanks, Keith, for your guidance and your leadership and your dedication to your community and your family.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Freeman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a pretty sad day for me to be able to speak about Keith and Linda, really. What they've done for Frankfurt is miraculous, really. I mean, everything that they have now seemed to start with Keith, you know, from the fireworks displays and everything they do down in the park, and just so many things they have done for their community. But I want to speak a little more personally, if I may. The very first time I went to one of their bonfires for the fireworks, I somehow sort of got absorbed into the family, I swear. Suddenly they became my family. And I got to tell you, Keith and Linda should be so incredibly proud of their kids. They supported Keith and supported Linda for as long as Keith was in pain. They were there for them constantly. And this last 6 months or so, I'm telling you, no family on earth have I ever heard of that supported their loved one more than them. I got to tell you, they'll be my friends till I die. I love those people, all of them. And it's a very sad time to lose somebody like Keith. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Well, thank you. Yes, I appreciate all that's been said, and certainly is true. And I've had the privilege to work with both Keith and Linda for a long time, and Keith was very passionate about things that needed to be done, and in most cases, what needed to be done wasn't just Frankfurt. It was many parts of our city. So I thank him for the support, recognizing that we reach out further than just what we see every day. So again, I appreciate it, and rest in peace. I know you're in a better place. that rheumatoid arthritis is not much fun for anybody. My wife has fought it, or I shouldn't say fought it. She's dealt with it for over 40 years, over half her life. So I know the pain and the agony that he has gone through and that other people still go through. So may we continue to support research, and hopefully they find something that cures those, I guess you'd say, wolf-type diseases that attack in so many different ways. Thank you. All right, any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Any disclosures? None, declare that closed. Approval of the agenda, please. Mover and a seconder for approval of the agenda. Councillor Quinte moves, second by Councillor McHugh. Any comments? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Approval of the minutes, the resolution that minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 19th be approved, and further that the minutes of the closed session council meeting held on June 19th, 2024 be approved. Mover and the seconder. Councillor Allier moves, seconded by Councillor Freeman. Are you good with that? You got your hand up? Good, thank you. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay. All right, delegations. We're on first. Jonathan Hack, Director, Sierra Planning and Management, will address council to present the draft suite of potential programs under the Commercial and Tourism Community Improvement Plan, CIP. Okay, you're on. We got you. We can see you. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Can we turn that up a little? Whoops. There, okay.
Screen.
Yes, we can see it, and hopefully we can hear you.
Great. Can you hear us okay? Sorry, I'll just for clarity, I'll ask again. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes?
Yes, okay, thanks. So I'll get to it. I know you have a busy meeting, so I'm very happy to be able to present an update to the work that we're doing. It's important work for the city of Quinte West, building on the existing community improvement plan that's in place for Frankfurt and for Trenton itself. Our company, just a little bit about us, Sierra Planning and Management, we do a lot of community improvement plans around the province, have done for around 20 years. And so we are bringing, hopefully, some good observations to work alongside the experience that is there in management and staff in developing this. So our process has been very collegial, drawing upon the experience of both city staff and ourselves, and the result of which is I'm going to walk you through just where we are in terms of process and give you a little glimpse of where we think the plan is going in terms of its development and what the next stages are. So firstly, and I apologize if anyone has a very full understanding of a CIP, but for public purposes, what's a community improvement plan? What's the process and scope? An important change here is what is the project area? And the project area, the CIPA, is the area in which the municipality is allowed to bonus properties. So you're allowed to give grants and incentives without defining the area. You currently have the area defined for Frankfurt and for downtown Trenton, effectively or partially part of downtown. That we're proposing is going to change and gives you more options to implement programs. We'll outline those very briefly, and then financial implications and the next steps thereafter. So I won't focus on this in too much detail, other than to say that community improvement plans are statutory instruments that exist in the Planning Act. They actually exist in the Municipal Act as well, in order to allow you to, as I said, incentivize certain properties that, of course, you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And you do it for a range of public benefits. And so it can involve financial incentives, grants and loans, and other kinds of assistance, or it can be more general in terms of a range of public sector actions as well. So if you look on the right side, public realm attractions, as maybe, or actions, I should say, as often happens, to put new sidewalks, new street furniture, improve the edges of downtowns next to parks and waterfronts. That's all important stuff. And then on the other side of the coin is the private ownership. And what we're trying to do in this plan is help private owners of essentially commercial properties be able to take advantage of, the changing and growing economy in Southern Ontario, to reinvest in their properties and to make downtown Trenton, as an example, a very strong destination for tourism purposes. And it only takes a day like today, in terms of the summer, we're in the middle of peak season, to recognize that there's a lot of opportunity that Trenton has. And I'm sure you felt that with the air show that was on a week or so ago, in terms of the potential that exists. The CAP is part of that whole conversation about how to achieve the balance that's required for community wellness and economic development. So your first CAP was developed in 2005. It certainly needs a refresh. The new CIP will enable an improvement of the kinds of supports that are provided, and will be very current with what is a focus. And so the city, through its existing work, has identified or recommitted to downtown and commercial community improvement, but also added to this, focus on the potential for tourism. And obviously, the urban areas become the service hubs for tourism, and the broader agricultural, agrarian, landscape of Trenton and beyond, right through the municipality, is a potential location for additional tourism activities. So we have an agricultural or a rural piece to this as well. We're working through the process step by step. We're being very methodical. We've completed significant stakeholder engagement. We're at the point where, after today, and we would like to be able to start to draft the CIP in some detail, and then finalize it through September, come back for public meetings as are required through the statutory requirements of the Planning Act. And then once the plan is complete, toward the end of the year, it'll ready to be rolled out in 2025. So there's a bit of a process, but what have we done so far in this? And you have to do it step by step, because you don't want to do this every 2 years. You want this to be a kind of plan that, even though there will be a municipal election in a couple of years' time, we want to be able to have this plan roll forward with general support from council. And if council changes, there's a lot of evidence we want to be able to have in place, which suggests that the plan is worth continuing. So we've had so far meetings with the mayor and councillors and city staff, or some of my colleagues have. We've launched the CIP webpage. We've had an online survey of property owners and tenant businesses. You don't expect those to be significant in terms of the numbers. It's not a public survey. It's targeted to essentially commercial property owners. We had 2 very useful stakeholder sessions to further discuss the needs of the business community. And we've produced a very detailed background discussion report, which really is the backbone of why we want to develop the programs that we're suggesting. And we have developed the programs, which I'm going to just lay out for you. I'm not going to go through this in tremendous detail, other than, the idea of a community improvement plan is to ensure that each municipality, each community, each downtown has the ability to sustain itself in the face of the changing nature of the economy, particularly as it relates to commercial properties and retail properties for that matter. and to be a focus point for reinvestment. If you can provide some level of funding to an organization or a property that can then pay back in terms of not only improved facades, enhanced taxation, but also bring people to the downtown because it's an attractive place to spend money and spend time. This is conceived as being a public benefit. Simply going in and handing out money to those that want to do something in their properties, that's not the focus of a CAP. So we use this kind of language very carefully to make sure that when we evaluate applications, we are doing so in a way which is a prudent use of public funds. It's tried and tested across the province. You've had a plan for 20 years, but now is the time to consider, resetting that to a new set of priorities that have been put in place. So we're not really dealing with housing per se, because that is deemed to be, in our view, a little bit of a separate issue. So there are plans around for affordable housing, but we are spreading out to deal with brownfields. So properties such as the Domtar site and an array of other properties that would have had levels of commercial use in the past that would create some possible contamination. They're going to be brought into the plan. We want to attract new businesses, and of course we want to, if we can, improve the opportunities for overnight tourism accommodation, and the city of Quinte West being a full participant to the Bay of Quinte tourism complex, which it absolutely is, and needs to be maintained. So we're focusing on really three elements: commercial and downtown and waterfront, we'll call it, which is really the Trenton and to some extent Frankfurt. Tourism, again, it depends on your definition of tourism, but to us, tourism is about an experience, so it can be about an activity, but it can also be about service, whether that be a hotel, a bed and breakfast in the rural area, a great restaurant, or we can see the washed out image there, the farm store that might exist, could even be a winery. There's a range of things. So this CIP is about setting that opportunity up so that it evolves over time. And so this plan, I think, needs to be very sort of fair and generous to the concept of what is or is not a tourism use. And then the agriculture and the rural, we're not here in this plan to try and change the economics of farming. And in fact, CIPs need to focus on property, so property improvements. So we can't invest in, mechanized equipment, machinery, anything of that nature, but we can assist with those properties that could benefit from better signage if they're bringing members of the general public in. So if you can imagine, if it's a pick your own fruit, for example, there's tremendous opportunity, I think, to be able to improve the means by which people can have their wayfinding and then have public experiences on working farms. So this is the big change that I want to signal to council, is that currently your community improvement project areas are restricted to essentially a large part of downtown Trenton, and we're going to be proposing that expands, and then also an element of the Frankfurt downtown area. Now it's very small on this map, so you can't see some of the changes we're promoting to those two downtowns. But what we are doing, if you focus on the big red line, which is the entire municipal boundary, we're going to be suggesting, and we'll have lots of rationale put in place for this, that the entire municipality be designated as a community improvement project area. So if you're concerned in any way that, goodness me, we've just created an incentive zone for the entire municipality and we could have applications coming in left, right, and center, what are we going to do to focus our efforts? Do not be concerned. This is an approach that we take and has been taken in many places across the province, which is to create an efficiency, which is that the entire municipality could be considered a project area. So within that, if you develop programs and you have strict eligibilities, you have the most flexibility going forward. So you don't need to revise this in a couple of years' time. There's a particular reason why I wanted the broader area, and that is that if you're going to deal with the rural areas or agricultural areas, you can't do that with having a sort of a Swiss cheese type map, which shows multiple different community improvement project areas. It's better to have one canvas, and then within it, focus on what we call the priorities. So the downtowns, they remain priorities. But above and beyond that, there are programs that could, in theory, apply to the other area. But I want to be very clear on this. We're not opening the floodgates to assistance. We're being very strict on the eligibility. I'll get into that momentarily at the time I have left. So on the programs, I'll just run through these very quickly. There are a number of existing programs, and we're tweaking those a little bit. We're identifying, what their focus is and what the area is that they should apply to. So right there, we're not assuming that, any facade and signage grant improvement would relate to the entire municipality, because you're not going to have the public benefit for dressing up, a property remote from somewhere on a country lane. The reality is you're going to focus on the downtowns. So facade and signage improvement, downtowns, and tourism-related uses. Planning fees and building permit grant. Again, the goal here is not to give everyone a break on their planning fees for applications, but to basically expand the eligibility for specific things such as major renovations, expansions, or development of new buildings. And where should it apply? Again, it should apply to the downtowns, which have the older building stock, the kind of stock that you want to maintain going forward, because they have good bones, and they have a level of attractiveness and history and heritage to them. So that's where that focus is. The reference there to brownfield simply means that a contaminated piece of land anywhere in the city could conceivably have some assistance through these other forms of assistance, such as planning grants, planning permit grants, if development actually occurs on those brownfields. The Building and Property Renovation Grant is a new program and will include landscape improvement. And again, it applies to downtown and tourism-related uses only. There's another program which is popular in many places called the Building Accessibility Improvement Grant. And again, it's applicable to the downtowns and tourism-related uses. It is not something you want to apply everywhere, because again, it's got to be focused on where you can have the most impact in terms of the visiting public. And it is designed to be different from the renovation grant in that some people don't have the ability or the funds to be able to invest in a large renovation, but they can improve the accessibility of their properties, whether that's the front entrance, a doorway, washrooms, or some other aspect of serving the public. The fifth program, Phase 2 Environmental Site Assessment, you don't currently have that, and our experience from the work we've done in Belleville and elsewhere in the province is it's a really good program to have. You do need to fund it, but what it means is if you came across a property that is clearly contaminated, and there is an attempt by a developer to really understand how to remediate it, to bring it to development, then this kind of grant can assist. You're not going to dish out those grants to every potential project. It requires a developer to have a real plan, and they're going to spend the lion's share of the money on this, but there's a modicum of assistance you can give to help improve the developability of contaminated lands. And there are a number. I mean, there are a number in many communities, but we're talking about, an old dry cleaners establishment or an auto garage that's no longer in use. They all have a certain level of contamination that can stop development happening. These kinds of programs can really help. The other one is development charge deferral program. Under the Ford administration, lots of changes happened in terms of making development more easy for things like affordable housing or institutional development. But for industrial and commercial development, essentially you still have to pay development charges, although you can defer them or stagger the payments. What this program is saying, well, if you do that, you're still going to generate an interest payment. And so there can be some assistance in terms of paying down the interest. Again, for selected projects, you already have an industrial or employment land CAP that we're really not touching. And that can be, that has its own range of programs. This is really to assist those commercial projects that for whatever reason generate a development charge and that has to be paid as well. And then the last one, the big one, is a tax increment equivalent grant. So this is essentially saying in certain areas, so let's just take the downtown, for example, if you put in a new commercial development, that's going to generate significant tax increment or increase. A portion of that, the municipal portion or the lower tier municipal portion, meaning that for the city of Trenton, can be utilized to be paid back to the developer as a reward or a grant for them taking the risk of creating that new development in that location. So it's very much specific to location, and it is, it focuses on contaminated land, new downtown commercial, and tourism related activities that may be in the rural area, but are more likely in terms of developing substantial increases in taxation, they're more likely to be in the urban area. So the financial implications, we're working on it, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we do want to identify a couple of things that need to be brought to bear. There needs to be a workable amount of reserve funds to implement a CIP. And so we do our best to actually restrict the number of programs. So you're not dealing with 15 or so programs. It's very cumbersome to administer. And you also have to put budgets to them. So what we're trying to do is be very cautious, but we're going to be working up a general term sheet, you can call it, in terms of how much funding each program might be expected to need. And we're going to tie that into how the plans are rolled out in terms of getting best bang for the buck. So for example, rather than taking a first come, first served approach, we might say that you have 2 intake periods during a year, maybe one in March, maybe one in September. And that way you know what's coming in at the time. And so you have in front of you all of the applications, and you can weigh them one against the other so that you use your funding to best effect, because you can see what is being requested of you. So there are some administrative process that we will undertake. And then in terms of next steps, we're going to continue to work on these programs and their funding. So we're not going to be elusive on that. We're going to come back and have a clear picture of funding, but it is still a work in progress. We're then going to develop the CIP itself, and then we're going to come back to both council and the public in September, and we'll hold a statutory meeting, which, depending on how it's received by the public, would then give council the ability to either make some changes or to go forward and adopt the plan if it was deemed to be something that council did want to support. So that's where we are. I'm sorry for the amount of information on the speed of this, but hopefully it gives you a sense that the wheels are moving and we're moving along as we should be, and we'll be coming back in the fall to speak to council again on this. I'll stop sharing if I may, and then I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from anyone? Anyone? Councillor Stedall, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. It's the CIPs, I think, are a valuable tool in our toolbox that we can use going forward. I'm just wondering, with 2 application intakes, would the plan be that there would be a subcommittee, or that the applications would be vetted through staff instead of coming back through council?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Thank you for the question. It's a good one. you really have some choice as to how you go forward on that. So let's just say, for example, you did have a couple of intake periods. You would have a committee, and the composition of that, whether it be a member of council or just staff or member of the business community, that really can be something that should be discussed, and I'm sure the staff will have their view on it, knowing the interests that may exist in that regard. But that's how you would do it. You try and keep the committees, their terms of reference very clear, and whether or not you go all the way to council for every decision on an application. So if it's a $5,000 fund, maybe you could delegate that to staff. So maybe the facade improvement could be delegated, but it really comes down to sort of a philosophy of how each city, each municipality likes to proceed. If you go to Belleville as an example, they have a very robust CIP, but most of the decisions taken, I stand to be corrected, but most of the decisions taken are run through council. They come through a committee and there's a staff recommendation, and then there is a council decision. In some other municipalities, certain of the programs, absolutely need to be approved by council, but there are a couple of programs that can be what they call delegated authority to staff. But it really comes down to how you've dealt with delegated authorities on other matters as to whether or not you'd be comfortable with that.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm going to ask, go ahead, Councilor Quinte.
Thanks very much for your presentation. I guess my question revolved around you're recommending the entire city be included in the CIP plan, but it seems to me when we first started with the CIP idea that we were limiting it to the commercial areas, because my idea is that it's really for commercial incentives, and not every property in the entire city has proper zoning to do any sort of commercial applications to such an idea. So correct me if I'm wrong, but making the entire city seems to be, in my opinion, isn't really going to work. But you just want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, thank you, because it is a segue into having just a little bit more of a detailed conversation on what that actually entails. And the presentation is not easy in a presentation to explain, but it is not every property is eligible. So firstly, we've actually, it's not shown here, but it's linked to the zoning bylaws, the zoning classification. So residential is not eligible, firstly. And certain types of commercial, highway commercial, are not eligible, except in certain areas where it's clear that they form part of a downtown. And then the rest is sort of focusing on downtown commercial. Where there's mixed use, meaning commercial on the ground floor, and then there may be an opportunity to put some residential above, then mixed use can be eligible. So you can't see it, but what the plan will have is clear levels of eligibility. And we are essentially focusing only on those two priority areas. Essentially, for most of the bigger ticket items, we're going to actually reset the downtown Trenton one to have a bit more of an inclusive boundary to it, a bit longer along Highway 2. Get rid of the park, because you're not going to incentivize yourselves as owners. So there's no need to have public parkland as part of a priority zone. Same in Frankfurt, there's a park on one side that's going to be taken out because it's not a private land holding that would be eligible. That's the other aspect, is you have to be private to be eligible on this. But the breadth of the rural area, which I know can be kind of sticker shock, what that really is saying is there may be some agricultural and rural uses that could benefit from certain of these programs. And what we're really talking about are just the programs such as, for example, assisting with planning and building permits, assistance to develop a diversified agricultural use that allows the public to come on to the property. So on-farm retail, things like that, they're certainly allowed under the provincial policy statement. There is a question as to whether the existing zoning bylaw for the city would need to catch up So that's another limitation that may actually prevent a lot of assistance going forward to the rural areas. But you have to be able to cast a broader net and just restrict the eligibility, as I've said. So we're not assisting agricultural properties in any way related to agriculture. It would have to be something else that happens on the property that is deemed to be tourism. And I'll give you just one other example. Currently, the zoning bylaw restricts property development for overnight accommodation to a couple of categories. One is, I think, recreational commercial, which would be the sort of camping RVs, and they're in certain locations. And the others are bed and breakfast, and they're restricted to 3 bedrooms, I think. So the idea that this plan could be used to, let's just say, for exaggerated purposes, a hotel in the middle of the rural area, that would only be a proposition if it got planning permission, and that would require you to provide that planning permission or then to win it at the Ontario Land Tribunal. So there are a lot of insurances factored into this process. So the upshot is that going for a broader definition is the best way to capture that focus on tourism. And if that's not palatable, you're really talking about tourism then in the commercial areas themselves, the downtowns. So that's why we've done it.
Okay,
thank you very much, John. I'm going to suggest that if there are any other questions, that you go through Linda Lyle, and she'll get your answers. Thank you very much. Appreciate the work you're doing for us. Thank you. We'll move on to Kirsten Salisbury, Operations Manager, Clara Tasson, Senior Research Specialist, and Amanda Soames, Research Associate, Loyalist College, Center for Healthy Communities, will talk to us about a well-being partnership, and I'm still saddened that we sold that piece of property, but I will get over it someday. Anyways.
Well, hopefully you don't hold it against us. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Kirsten Salisbury. I am the Manager of Operations for the Center for Healthy Communities at Loyalist College. I'm joined by my colleagues today. I will allow them to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I am Clara Tascon. I am the Senior Research Specialist from the Center for Healthy Communities, and we are here to just share with you what is our center and how we can collaborate.
Hi, and I'm Amanda Soames. I'm the Research Associate at the Center for Healthy Communities.
What we have to endure as well, Anyways, say no more.
We are very privileged. Thank you, Mayor. Our team has been in discussions with the City of Quinte West regarding community safety and well-being planning, and we have been invited here today to speak about a potential project we hope to partner on with you. Before I speak about this possible project, I will give you just a brief overview of what applied research looks like with Loyalist College and tell you a little bit about the Center for Healthy Communities. You will also hear me refer to it as the CFHC. We love acronyms at Loyalist. If you're not familiar with the college, you will hear them all the time. The Center for Healthy Communities, or the CFHC, is Loyalist's newest applied research center of excellence that is rooted in social innovation. Loyalist College has been engaged in applied research for over a decade, and our research office provides a variety of services that support research, both internal and external, everything ranging from ethics support to building and infrastructure, equipment, and of course, supporting the capacity of our internal researchers, but also our community and industry partners. Within our applied research office, we have 2 centers of excellence, the Center for Natural Products and the Center for Healthy Communities. The Center for Natural Products is a technical access center, so it works with small businesses and small and medium-sized enterprises to help them improve their technology readiness level, helping them to prepare for market. The Center for Healthy Communities is very different in that we work in the social sphere and we help the not-for-profit sector and the public sectors in the work that they're looking to do. What is applied research? It is very different from theoretical and scholarly research, what you might see happening in universities. The purpose of applied research is to help our community and industry partners solve real-world challenges with immediate applications. And we do this by bringing together our industry and community partners, our researchers, our staff, our students, and we leverage their existing and unique knowledge with new knowledge to help create data-informed decision-making. Okay, about the center. This is the more interesting part. The Center for Healthy Communities officially launched in February of 2024, so we are fairly new, but we have been running under the radar for quite some time. The Center for Healthy Communities is focused on social innovation. It is a research center that partners with not-for-profits, government agencies, health, and social service sector partners to help them strengthen their impact on challenges related to the social determinants of health. And we do this through a health equity lens that aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We have 4 key pillars in the center, and these are aligned with 4 key SDGs, and those are to reduce inequalities, reduce poverty, promote good health and well-being, and of course, quality education. And while we all kind of understand what those SDGs speak to, I always like to draw attention to the one about quality education. While we are a post-secondary institution, of course, we're in the business of education. With this center, we're also speaking about education to the common public. A lot of the time when you're leveraging research, it doesn't translate to public sector. This means that the data that we bring together doesn't always make sense to our not-for-profit or government partners. So a big piece with this center is turning that language and that knowledge that is into a way that is accessible for all of the partners that we work with. One of the also very unique things about our center is that we're a center without walls. This means that we don't have a physical location at the college. There's no labs. We don't wear the white lab coats. We go out to community and we are embedded with our partners. And this was done very intentionally so that we can be both accessible and promote collaboration. Areas of focus within the center fall within 3 core sustainable development goals and social determinant of health areas. And these are social and community context, healthcare access and quality, and neighborhood and built environment. And within these, a lot of projects tend to fall within subject matters of social services, community justice and safety, mental and physical health and well-being, housing and shelter, and transportation. While projects do not have to fit exclusively within those domains, they tend to, and this is because the community has emphasized these as areas of focus and areas of need. These may evolve over time, but this is what we tend to look at now. The type of work that we do at the center. Many of our projects fall within these areas, and these include environmental scans, needs assessments, feasibility studies, program or service design, program or service trial, evaluation, impact measurement, and of course, knowledge mobilization. That really does come with every project that we do, is turning what we do into something meaningful. Why do we do this? Our big why at the center is to build and promote healthy communities, and we do this through collaboration with our partners and through applied research. The inputs that go into everything that we do include stakeholder input, so hearing the voices of our community and the people that we want to be involved with, through collaboration, so building those relationships, and then of course applied research. From this, we get outputs that look like data-informed interventions and decision-making, greater funding opportunities, and of course, greater impact. But the ultimate outcome that we try to strive for is building a healthy community. So why we're here today. The City of Quinte West held a role in developing the first iteration of their Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan back in 2021. The areas of focus for this plan include appropriate and affordable housing and mental health and addictions. This plan had a 3-year mandate to end in 2024 and now requires for the community needs to be reassessed. The City of Quinte West and the Center for Healthy Communities began discussions to explore how our center could help to evaluate some of the outcomes from that first plan and then help to assist with the development of the next iteration of a plan. This was a potential project plan that was developed in collaboration with the city and some of the members we've been working with. The proposed project includes deliverables of a project plan which has been developed, a literature review, an environmental scan, the development of the next iteration of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan, an evaluation plan, and a dissemination. The purpose of this is to help us connect with your current stakeholders, understand what has been done, what has worked really well, where those gaps might lie, and how we can use that information to help develop a very meaningful, actionable plan. And then from there, an evaluation plan, so that as that next plan is being acted out, we can help you to measure your successes and what you're doing well, or maybe where things need to pivot or change in the future. We recognize that we're a little bit later now. We are July. We are mindful that should any budgetary requests be made or proposed in that plan, that those need to fall within your fiscal guidelines. So we will be able to accommodate that and adjust the plan accordingly. But otherwise, we are still on track to continue with the proposed deadline. As the CFHC works to build our portfolio and work with communities, we will be completing this project on an in-kind basis. And so this means the project will not require any community partner dollar contributions, but we will rely on the expertise and the knowledge from the Community Safety Wellbeing Advisory Committee and any other relevant stakeholders at that time. The principal investigator, so the person that will lead the charge on this project, will be Clara, our senior research specialist. This project will include the full support of myself, as well as Amanda, our research associate, and any hired students where appropriate. I will lead any of the management, project scoping, and business development components. Clara will be the expert on the research pieces and helping to pull this together. And of course, Amanda will be key in driving all of the work forward that we plan to do with you. Working with our center is very much a collaborative approach, and so while we will take the human resources capacity off of them, the community, the stakeholders, everyone involved, we still will rely on their expertise. We like to make sure that our partners that we work with feel heard, felt listened to, and make sure that the project we're doing with them rather than on them or over them. Now that we have a project plan developed, a statement of work has been written. This includes those project objectives or the deliverables that I mentioned earlier. The purpose of the statement of work is to ensure that both our partners, so you in this case and the center, understand what those goals are and make sure that we're on the same page as we work throughout the process. The next step is for that agreement to be executed so that we can start to meet with our stakeholders, build those relationships, and start to execute the project. And with that, I will leave you for any questions you may have.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Mayor, and to the team. I think this is just excellent, and the timing of this and the knowledge. And I was looking at the objectives and the highlights of your research team and the NOWAL's research team, which I really like the model there. It just fits in so nicely with our working group, Safety and Wellbeing, and looking at, I know we'll talk about the agreement later, but the value in terms of the hours and that timeline, and then to take us into 25 with recommendations, or 2025. So I just think this is excellent. I didn't know anything about your organization, and when I read this, I went, wow, Center for Healthy Community, I envisioned a building, right? And so this is just excellent, and having the skill set of Loyalist College and to partner with is always advantageous for our city. My question is, have you done this when any other municipalities yet, or are we the first that you've partnered with in this particular, I guess, objective or initiative for helping us to our next phase of our community being and well-being plan or update?
Thank you for your question. City of Quinte West will be the first municipality for the development of a plan as of this sort. We do work with other municipalities on different initiatives. This will be our first time working on this specific initiative. We were fortunate enough to begin discussions with the city back in November. So this was when we knew the center was coming, but we couldn't officially announce it to the world. So it's been a lot of discussions, a lot of thinking, a lot of contemplating. But this will be our first time. So if this is something that gets moved forward, City of Quinte West will be a pioneer with the college in that.
You know, Councillor Sharp, nobody's as far advanced as we are.
You're correct.
That's true.
Don't forget that, okay? Quinte West is the best, you know. Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I just wanted to thank Kirsten again and her team and Loyalist College, and especially city staff for seeing this process through to an agreement. I think some great things will come out of it. I look forward to the new community safety plan, and yeah, wonderful opportunities. Love the plan, and look forward to get to work.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I heard no new funding for this term. Perfect, that's the right answer. I like you already.
We know how to manage our money.
So Councillor Quinte and I are on the same page for that one because I heard in kind, so appreciate the work that is being done and I appreciate that it's not going to cost taxpayers money. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, through your worship. I am absolutely thrilled that Loyalist College has agreed to take this on. In our first rendition, we had to go outside and hire a consultant to do this part because while we have the expertise in the community for the needs, we do not have the expertise for the analysis. And this is going to fill that gap and give us a great product going forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Very much. Appreciate the work you're doing, and all I can say is keep working.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy what you do and do what you enjoy. Okay, I think we're on. We're going forth. Okay, any other delegations? Any other public, no, okay. Any public input? Come on up, one at a time.
Hi, Joel Fox, 568 Fox Road. I just wanted to start by saying that I'm very fortunate to be able to be a homeowner. It's an old farmhouse that my grandpa built, and I pay property taxes, and I don't like paying more property taxes, but I really think that this coming budget year, I should pay at least 6% more property taxes. Well, actually, we'll see.
Just before you leave, did you say you're willing?
Yes, yes, I want to pay more taxes. I hope you guys will increase my taxes.
You're sure your last name is Fox?
So the reason is because as I was looking at the agenda, I saw the item about the new special class of multi-residential property, and seeing that, I noticed for the first time that multi-residential properties, or the majority of them in the city, are paying twice the tax rate that a regular residential property is. So I thought that was a bit strange, and so I, inquired around and did a little bit of research to see what the reason was. I didn't really find any real rationale for it. If anything, one would expect the taxes to be lower because higher density development is more economical for the city, as well as, multi-residential tenants are generally a little bit lower income than homeowners. What I found was it's likely happened 20, 25 years ago. There was sort of out-of-date impact assessments, and so it was the tax ratio was increased to sort of offset that, and the province has since made it not allowable to have a tax ratio on that for new builds, but the old buildings were grandfathered in, so that tax ratio can never go up. It only has to go down or stay the same, and I think it should come down to 1-to-1. I don't see a reason to charge, tenants in apartments a higher rate of property tax than homeowners. There are some cities in Ontario that have already done this. Ottawa, Mississauga, York are either at 1-to-1 or very close to 1-to-1. And there's lots of municipalities that have been slowly phasing that tax ratio down. So I did some math. I don't know if my math is right, but so take these numbers with a grain of salt. But I think that, resolving this inequality would involve a property tax increase of something between 3% to 6% for the average homeowner, a single-family homeowner. Now, that would be if we want to keep the property taxes within the residential class. I think in the last budget, like $700,000 was the amount that a 1% tax increase would get the city. So maybe it would be less if you added some to commercial, but I don't know whether that's fair or not. So anyways, say 3 to 6% was my rough math, and I think, multi-residential would then get a 45% tax cut. So fairly significant. And lest you be concerned that the money would not actually make it to the tenants, that it would be sort of just pocketed by the landlords, there's actually a federal law that requires any tax reduction over 2.5% to be directly passed on to the tenants. So the city would be required to send a letter to the tenants saying that the taxes on their property will be going down by this much, and that if the taxes, their rent is not reduced by that much after a certain date, then they would be entitled to go to the landlord-tenant board and get that money back. So, so I think that in the principle of fairness and equity and equality, I think it would be a great thing for the city to eliminate this different tax rate. And yeah, so in summary, I would say that the city can resolve a grave inequality, and at the same time, it can also offer a direct, immediate, and guaranteed housing relief for tenants who are often lower income in these apartments. So,
Thank you. We'll certainly look at it. Thank you. Anyone else for public input? Okay, thank you very much. We'll keep going then. First resolution is that staff report by Louise Smith, Deputy City Clerk, Coordinator, Accessibility, regarding release of easement temporary turning circle, blocks 41 and 2, 43 be received.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, moved by Councillor Quinte. I need a seconder. Councillor McHugh. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, we got a pass a bylaw too that goes with that. All right, then they, under finance, a resolution that staff report by Caleb Denoud, Director of Finance, City Treasurer, regarding 225 capital and, I can't read, sorry, operating budget timeline and community engagement strategy be approved. Moving a seconder to start with McHugh first and Councillor Quinte second. Now comments, or Councillor Sharp, we'll go first.
Yes, thank you through the mayor. I really appreciate Director Denouden's report, and I really like having these timelines very similar to last year, but with some updated information. I just wanted to comment. Last year, when we went through the budget, we spent approximately a full day addressing grant submissions. And I wanted to suggest that if we
It's
could...
already in there. The grant.
Yes, no, I know, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And what I wanted to suggest is if in this process going forward in 2024, that, with these timelines, that instead of having a full meeting to deal with the budget, with the grant applications, that staff be given, support or direction to summarize the applications and do a recommendation to us, and that if we have questions of the submissions, we get back to them. Because in this policy, there's so much detail with regard to the grants that are provided to us. And so it's all there for us to review. But I recall last year, we spent a whole entire day with the budget review or with the grant submissions. And I think that if we could analyze them through staff, review the submissions we get, and then if there are questions, we can get back to the grant applicants. But I do think we spent a lot of time on the grants, and we are, looking at a $60 million budget, and we spent a full day on a $100,000 item. So these are the kind of things that I would like us to have a look at. And I also would like to comment that as we go forward, maybe this is further along, but if we could look at the budget with, okay, or give direction when it comes, that here's the base level for 2025 going forward, no change in level of service, and then if we have level of service increase, where that is. We know there's going to be an increase in the budget, even with the same level of service, but looking to provide some direction back with regard to this process. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stedall and then Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Worship. I think, so just backing up just a little bit, so there's two items on our agenda. One is to talk about the community grant policy, which I think Councillor Sharp alluded to first. That's item B on here, and I'll speak to that in a when we get to that one. But to talk about the budget timeline and the community engagement strategy. So for the 2 days that we have in December for the 4th and the 5th, I think a priority for us, I would recommend, is that we talk about all of the capital items for 2025 budget, and then we talk about the operational items for the 2025 budget. External agencies would be next, which would be things like our transit, our conservation authorities, those types of things. If those are what I consider mandatory, that need to be in our budget. Then we have external agencies that come to us with other requests. And those, I think, there was a number of them that came last year, and they spoke to us, and it went on, you know, for at least a half a day. And there may be some agencies that we do want to have and come and speak to us, but if we could fit all of that discussion into one day and deal with the city business first, like the things that we have to deal with first, and then have day 2 where we can do whatever recommendation changes, cuts, or et cetera, that we would be able to at least take a breath and then come back. I felt last year we had so many delegations that came to us to talk about the great work that they do, and, you know, not belittling the fact of the work and the requests that they made. But however, everybody in this room was exhausted by the time we got to the actual discussion on the budget. And I think that is difficult for us as councillors to make some hard decisions and to make sure that we're making the right decisions if we have to try and get the budget down. So I'm just wondering if, and this is through to Director Denouden, if you could comment on if we can change that process so that we could make it a little bit more succinct.
I don't think he can change it. We'll have to make a motion to change it, but you can make a comment.
Yeah, through Mayor, I think I'll start with the community fund grants, where we have that meeting set for January 29th, and we have a policy in front of you. I think staff is willing to look at having that authority to review those grants and submit a final report back to council on what to approve, and not have that full meeting where we invite all the applicants to work through a meeting and do presentations and answer questions. I think the user groups would appreciate that approach as well, not having to show up to that event and kind of wait for that dialogue. So we're open to that change to the policy, and also the change to the calendar, or the January 29th council meeting. In terms of the community groups that did show up, that were more than 5,000 that showed up to the 2-day meeting, December 4th and 5th, I think it's reasonable to maybe take those and ask them to come to a prior council meeting if they do have requests. We do deal with them throughout the year, so we could have them do their presentations at a separate council meeting and simply have their requests come forward on that 2-day budget meeting as part of our full budget. And just focus on those external agencies we have a partnership with that make up a significant part of our budget. So I think those 2 amendments we'd be willing to make.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's great for those 2 amendments. The other thing I would like to see change, instead of putting out to the public that we're going to have a 10.1% increase, I think staff should talk to members of council what the maximum level that they'd be willing to accept is, so we don't have to get into so many days just to par it down. If we're only going to be accepting a 6% increase, there's no really sense of you presenting a 10% one to the public.
Well, listen, I think we've got to be down well below 5%, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be very difficult, but that's my feeling. People can't afford, and they're finding it difficult. So, yes, I'm not giving a direction. That's just me at this time.
But that's why I'm saying we should have discussions on it, and we shouldn't be starting with the 10% one that we know will not be acceptable to all the council.
We'll only start with O'Neill prop. No, we won't start with any then. You're right. Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Quinte.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Staff did come to us 2 years ago with their 4-year plan, and that was an accurate estimate of what was going to happen for the future with all the inflation, the cost of everything, and I'm not just talking about equipment, but our supplies, our fuels, our electric bill, our gas bill, cost of training the staff so they can do the job. Everything is increasing, and if we're going to be sending a message, as you suggested, Mr. Mayor, from your chair, 5%, we're going to need to review the city's strategic plan before we implement a budget, because if we're going to follow our strategic plan, which one is more important, the strategic plan we created or setting a budget for the city to move forward? So that's just an observation from what I see from my chair. You pegged it, Mr. Mayor. It's going to be tough because there's going to be things that we're just not going to be able to do if you're going to make it 5% or less, in my opinion. And even Mr. Fox's presentation, him willing to pay 6%, but if he's making his willingness to do that with the caveat that the city is going to amend the tax rates for multi-residential properties, that's only going to cover what we did last year. That's not going to have anything to do with what we have to do going forward for the future. So it's going to be way more than 6% from his calculations, if I'm understanding what he was trying to present. It's not going to be easy, and it's. I was having an informal conversation with Director Dinowden virtually a week ago, so I have to commend him on this excellent report that he put together. After I was having an informal conversation for him, I didn't even have any idea that this was going to be on the agenda. So, great work. What did you do? Stay up late right after our conversation and whip this up? I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you had it all on the go. But are you looking for our in like the first sentence in here, we're looking to receive feedback from council on the proposed process. Are you wanting that input right now, or are you wanting us to reach out to you at another time?
Through you, Mayor, this is the exact discussion I was looking for. Basically, the timeline, what went well last year, what didn't go well last year. We also have the community engagement piece on here, where we're going to emulate the similar approach we took last year, where we opened that up on our website to the public so they can start giving us feedback on our website starting now. And so in terms of specific direction when it comes to tax rate, I would suggest we wait maybe till October when we have the long-term financial planning. We get information on our economical, or the CPI inflation and some of the information we'll have at that meeting. So right now, it's mainly the process and the schedule of events we've got planned.
All right. Well, as already expressed by my fellow councillors, the last budget process was the longest that I'd ever gone through since being on council, and by the end of it, it really kind of opened up, at least my eyes. The challenges going forward for the next 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years that this city has. And I would encourage all the citizens to go back and look at your budget book that was put together that received an award from the Canadian, whatever the institution was. There's a lot of information and insight going forward as the challenges that the city has. And if all of the other services that we're making use of, like the cost of the fuel and the cost of the equipment and the manufacturers of the supplies that we need and use, and the staff that we have, if everybody wants to make a little bit of a cut in how much money things are, then that will help us out, because I don't see another way around it. The interest rate is not helping the economy, and I have to say, like when 30 years ago, when my wife and I, we were ecstatic that we got a 13.5 interest rate on our mortgage back in 1991 or 92, I don't remember exactly when, because other interest rates were like 18%, and I'm sure many of you who had mortgages 30 and 30 years ago remember this time. So all of this talk that I hear every time I hear about the interest rate being really high, well, it's all relative. Yeah, 5, 6 years ago, the interest rate was low, but 30 years ago, it was like ridiculously high, way, way more than what it is today. And we all survived then. And I wasn't on council then, so I'm not privy to the challenges that the councils of the day had. And I'm sure they were extremely challenging because the city was just coming together or getting itself to come together at that time. So there was a whole bunch of challenges going on. And the minute to put this building together with the library and the office and the half and accommodate the growth of the city to this point in time. So, hey, citizens, pay attention to this particular item. It's starting on page 24 of this agenda. Get it out and read through it. It's quite a picture of where we're going. Thanks.
Thank you. So we got the resolution before us. I can ask all in favor of that resolution. That's what I have to ask. 1, 2, 3. Carried. Thank you. Okay. Then the next one I've got is a Director of Finance Treasurer regarding Community Fund Grant Policy Review be received, and the council approve the updated Community Fund Grant Policy. That's moved by Councillor Elliott. You need a seconder. Seconder, Councillor McHugh. Any further comments? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, to Director Denouden, with this policy, does it need to be amended to allow staff to prepare the report, to make recommendations, just to give that authority? I think this is where that would need to be addressed. Thank you.
That's correct. Yeah, we would need an amendment to the motion.
Well, I'd like to make that amendment to the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Well, don't you have, I'm sorry, Director,
I believe it's section 5.35 of the policy. It needs to be amended to change it from council to staff.
yeah, so,
I would agree to the amendment.
okay, all right, thank you. All right, okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, next one is resolution that staff, Director Denouden, regarding vacant housing tax be received, and that council receive this information enclosed within the report to decide on the implementation of the vacant housing tax. So it's just receiving it. That's it. I need a mover and a seconder to receive this information is all I need.
And then no further action after that.
That's what, that's right. Councilor
Just wanna
Stedall
make sure.
moves. Pardon?
I said I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Because I'll second it.
Councilor Freeman, are you moving that recommendation? Thank you. Moved and seconded. All right. Do we need a discussion, or can I ask all in favor? Do you want to discuss it? Okay, go ahead.
Thanks for the report. For a projected revenue of 48 to 80,000, I can see why we shouldn't be doing it, but thank you for the report.
Okay, thank you. You're riding the rail on that one. Councilor Stedall.
Just to follow up on that too, I mean, this program has been implemented in major cities and it has failed. And so I wouldn't recommend, and our landscape is a lot different than the big cities with the vacancies. I think this would hurt some of our people that might have cottages and things like that. So, yeah, I would
Thank you.
agree.
Okay, so all in favor of receiving, that's all I need. Thank you very much. All carried. Okay. The next one is that staff report by Caleb regarding the new multi-residential subclass be received. Councilor Stedall moves, seconded by Councilor Freeman. Any other comments or at this time? We receive it and that's it. Councilor Stedall.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment. So I appreciate the work Mr. Fox has brought forward to us and have lived what has gone through with the changes with the multi-residential, the reassessments and things. And this was the result of a major assessment across the province, which I strongly feel we are in need of right now before we make any recommendation on this. And I would suggest that the province really should take a look at province-wide market value reassessment and upping it so that we can actually address things like this and get the real result instead of making decisions at this time on it.
I agree, and they could also come forth with some money, but anyway, that's another topic. I feel the same way. I'm drowning in things that they could help me with. Anyways, any other comments? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. I think I'm on the next page. I think that's where I am.
No. No, E.
Did I miss one?
E. Go back one.
Sorry.
E at the very bottom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is a good PI investment results, second quarter. Director Denow, do you want to make any comments on that? And then we'll hear any other questions or?
Your Worship, yeah, these quarterly reports come every quarter, obviously, to council. It's a long-term investment, so we try not to look too closely at the interim results. It's a long-term play.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Stidall.
Thank you, Worship. I do see there was some movement between the equity and moving into the bonds, which is probably, given that the interest rates could potentially go down in the next little while, probably a prudent move on the prudent investment fund, but it looks like they are, it looks like that's where they've gone with that. Anyway, thank you.
I think you're right. Any other comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay. Now I'm on the next page, right? Okay, resolutions, Director of PI investment results, I guess, second quarter. Did I do that? Oh, Matt, sorry. Matt, you're on. Sorry, Matt. So that's the resolution that second quarter capital projects be received as information. Moved by Councillor McHugh, seconded by Councillor Quinte. Any comments, Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have some questions I directed to Deputy Treasurer Hodge. The first was on the Marina Breakwall. The total budget wasn't provided. I believe it's $7 million, and there's no timeline for completion of this project. And I'd like to know, is there a timeline? Is it going to get done this year? When's it going to get done?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, you're correct. The budget number is $7 million. The just going through the tender process, so tenders have been received, and just going through the evaluation process. So there's no timeline right now for completion, as it's just in the evaluation phase.
Okay, and the second question was on the Willer Road Bridge rehab. It was originally budgeted for $5.4 million. Now it's more at 12 to 15 million projected, which is about a 250% increase. And then in the comments, it says dependent on CN. And what, does that mean CN wants more money than the 12 to 15? I'm just kind of confused on that one, too.
So are we. Can you answer that, Matt, or will I go to Director Angelo?
Through, I can give a very brief, but if you want
Okay,
more details,
thank you.
Director Angelo would be able to provide them.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks to Councillor O'Neill for your question. We've had several meetings with both railway authorities, CP and CN. Both railway authorities want accommodation for additional tracks. CN wants accommodation for 2 sets of additional tracks. Some of that, or a good portion of that, affects the cost of the bridge structure. We've put both railway authorities on notice that that additional cost will have to be borne by them if they want accommodation for future widenings to occur. We have met with CP and have an agreement on what we need to do going forward. We have yet to receive a response back from CN, and until we receive that response, I really don't know the direction we're going. I envision that the municipality may be going to the Transportation Board, similar to what we did a number of years ago on the Smithfield Overhead Bridge, to get a ruling from them with respect to cost apportionment and sharing of costs with the Railway Authority. And I still have to bring a report back to Council and seek direction on that sort of process going forward. So at this point in time, I don't have an estimated cost of what that structure will be until we finalize the design concept.
Thank you very much.
Can we go to a level crossing? Anyways, the history of dealing with CN and CP. You want to make any comment on that, or do you think you're going to put your foot in your?
Your Worship, I'll make a quick comment. Certainly, it's been a challenge. As some of you may know, we've had great success, and we're not. I should caveat this by saying we're not unique as a municipality in dealing with railway authorities. It's certainly been a challenge for not only our municipality but across the province, and we deal with this at Good Roads as well. Whether it's a bridge replacement, or it's a crossing improvement, or it's a ditching project that involves a railway authority. It certainly has its challenges. Certainly I can say it's been easier dealing with one railway authority over another. Like I said earlier, we do have a tentative agreement with CP, who are willing to fund their share of the project costs right now, sign the agreement. But until I know the direction from CN, and until we know that final design concept and the final estimated costs, and then come back to council with all of that, I really don't have that answer yet.
So that when we dealt with CN with the overhead bridge on number 2 highway, we had to raise the bridge a meter. And when we came to get the funding that we had agreed to, we didn't get it. They wouldn't pay the agreed share. Anyways, that's history. We aren't going to go there. We're going to try to do our best to get what it is we require to do this, and make sure that both and all of us put in the amount of money that's required. And that's the bottom line on this, and I think that's what Councilor Neal's alluding to, is how do we make sure we get what we need in term. And yes, I know I'm facetious when I say a level crossing, but yeah. And we want to widen the Wooler Road, and that again comes to the county, and we need support from both federal and provincial governments to do that work on that bridge and on that road. It should not all be Quinte West.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
Who's we that want to widen Wooler Road?
Well, do we not want to, we don't want to widen it?
I've never heard any
Okay,
discussions
well,
on it, other than you saying we want to widen it.
Well, okay, then it's me. All right, it's me. And I'm just saying it because if we're going to do the bridge, we got to have some kind of preparation. But anyways, Councillor Quinte.
Back to the bridge, and I guess a question for Director Angelo. I'm pretty certain that we have to repair this bridge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, Your Worship, I'd clarify, not repair it, replace it. It's in dire need of replacement. We did a temporary repair last year that's buying us some time, but it's deteriorating quite quickly. And I've put both railway authorities on notice that the replacement of that bridge needs to happen within the next year or so.
And so are we able just to forge ahead and just replace what is there without the railroad? Like, do we absolutely have to have their permission to replace the bridge, or can we just do it the way it is right now and just replace it the way it is right now? Can we do that?
Through Your Worship, quick answer is no. We need their agreement and their sign-off. If they fail to agree to it, we have to go to the Transportation Board for a ruling from them, which we had to do with the Smithfield Overhead Bridge about 10, 15 years ago.
I remember that. So on your recommendation, can we go and appeal this? Can we start that now, or do we actually have to wait for CN's response?
We have to complete the process that we're in now, waiting for CN to respond. I will wait until September. If I don't get a response back, I'll have to come to council with a report to seek direction to go to the board.
Because, all right, I guess then we'll wait, but it doesn't look promising if CN's not responding in a timely fashion, and we have a ticking time bomb going on there. Because if that bridge fails, I mean, it's only going to go down and it's going to land on their tracks, and they're not going to be able to run their trains back and forth with the bridge laying on top of their tracks. And I don't know, it's very frustrating. Thank you.
I agree. Don't disagree. And of course, we can do it as Director Angelo has suggested. A bridge replacement that is consistent with what we have now. We don't have to make any necessarily improvements to widen it.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, because if the bridge is going to collapse, guess whose fault that's going to be? So I'm suggesting, like, as soon as we possibly can, to just replace what's there, because that's we got a problem going on and we need to address it, and perhaps maybe your idea of doing a widening is for another time. If we have a risk, we need to address it ASAP. Yesterday, as Director Angelo is insisting that bridge has got a problem. He's told us we need to do something about it.
And we've sent all the reports to the CN and CP.
Yes, we have, Your Worship, yes.
They're fully aware of the condition. Councillor Stidham.
Thank you, Worship. Different item, sorry, smaller item on the capital list, but the 401 sign replacements, and sorry, kudos to staff for the amount of work that is being done and where everything is. And I'm not trying to pick on one small item, but I'm just wondering what the status of those, the signs are, and also the shelter at Chatterton Valley Park. I don't know.
Through your worship to Councillor Settle, I believe with everything going on so far this summer with Tucker's Corners and with the air show, my park staff have been really dealing with that. So I believe the plan is for early fall to deal with the 401 signs and come up with a new planting plan. But as I mentioned earlier, as part of the capital budget, I want to bring that back to council for your review and consideration, because we talked about some signature gardens in that area that would be less maintenance every year going forward. So I want to bring that back forward to all of you for your consideration. In regards to Chatterton Valley, we still want to have some public consultation, whether it's a replacement of the picnic shelter that was there or something different. We want to have some engagement with the community out there first.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of that one, I guess, and I'm at number, which one now are we at? G. G? Okay. Okay, operating update, mover and a second to receive for information, resolution, operating update be received as information. Okay, any comments? Councillor Allier moved by, Councillor Stidham second by. Any comments or questions on this one? Anyone? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolution, Matt, I guess, again, second quarter operating update be received as information. Need a mover, Councillor Allier, seconded by Councillor Freeman. Okay, any questions or comments, please? Anyone? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Next is planning, and that the resolution is that regarding housing action plan update be received. Councillor McHugh moved by, seconded by, need a seconder. Councillor Elliott, questions for on this, or Director Jardine? Which is it? Go ahead. Councillor Stidham.
Thank you, Worship. Just some comments. First of all, this is an excellent report and appreciate the update on this, since, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, it seems. I didn't know if the director had any comments specifically, and I appreciate the fact that there's new guidelines under the community, the CCBF fund, the old gas tax, that have been downloaded onto us, and that's being picked up by the housing needs study. I didn't know if the director wanted to. It was an excellent report. Thank you.
Director Jardine, any comment at this time?
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Thank you for that. Yeah, the report's really in two parts. First of all, obviously to give an update since the Housing Working Group was formed and the Housing Action Plan was approved in May, just to give Council an update on where we're at with some of the as Councillor Stidham said, the moving pieces there, but also more kind of specifically to give Council some idea of where we're at with the College Street project. We are developing the request for proposal to go out, and the intent of the report is to give you the kind of the scope and the shape of how we're proposing to deliver that to the market for proposals to come in. So obviously if there's any comments there, but just in terms of some of the kind of changing landscape pieces, even in the last couple of weeks, Councillor Steddle mentioned change to Canada Community Building Fund, which is a long-standing fund that the municipality gets, was gas tax funding. There's now a change in legislation that does allow municipalities to potentially use some of that funding for infrastructure projects that support housing, particularly affordable housing. So not for the housing itself, but for infrastructure. But one of the caveats there is that in order to apply for that funding, or to use the funding for those purposes, we have to undertake a housing needs analysis. It's a great idea to do that. It wasn't really on our radar or on our list of things to do, but it is now. So that's something new that we're going to scope out over the next few weeks, and we're having some conversations with some of our partner agencies around what that would look like, and we'll bring something back to the working group very shortly on that to get some direction. And then another one that's in the report that's another change is you'll all be delighted to hear that the Housing Accelerator Fund is back on the list. Housing Accelerator Fund 2, it's like one of those movies that keeps coming back. It's a much smaller fund this time, $400 million, but they're essentially asking for new applications. Now, there is a webinar through CMHC next week, so we will be attending that to get some of the factors of that. One of the main things for the municipality is that if we reapply, and I believe that we can reapply with the Housing Accelerator Fund application that we produced before last year. But what we want to make sure of is that we don't have to stop doing the projects while we're waiting for funding. If Council remember, that was one of the big issues before. We waited for 10 months. All of the projects were kind of at a standstill. I don't believe we want to run into that again, but effectively I will be bringing a report back to Council to get direction on that next Council meeting in August. And if Council directs us to make reapplication, we'll make a reapplication on that. So those are just two examples of some of the things that change. We think we know the projects that we have on our plate, and it changes. But it's all good stuff, so that's fine. Definitely on a positive note, in terms of workload, you'll see in the report that with the working group and Council's approval, we have hired our Housing Action Plan Coordinator. Brianna Andrews started last Monday. She's already way ahead of me, so I'm trying to catch up with her. So that's great. So we've got some staff assistance on some of these projects. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? Councillor Quinte.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Councillor Steddall's comments on this report and thank Director Jardine for his verbal update as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Brian, can you briefly comment on density? Director Jardine, I should say. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, in what particular?
Well, what I'm particularly concerned with what the province has done with the density issue in, I guess, every municipality in the province.
Yeah, I mean, it's something obviously that would be one of the general directions, as Council know, and certainly anybody on Planning Committee, the province through its planning policies are encouraging or requiring municipalities to effectively use land more efficiently, which is obviously a good idea under any kind of circumstances. And one of the ways to do that, particularly housing land, is to increase the density. So we're being driven through our updates to our official plan to incorporate policies that provide for additional density, more houses on less land effectively. We've done that in our update. It's still sitting with the province, so they're not in place yet, but we've done that across most of our housing from low density right through to higher density zones. You can effectively build more houses than you could before. So that's the general kind of direction that we're getting, and we have incorporated that into our policies. And I don't expect any changes to those policies when the province gives us a decision on the official plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next, all in favor of that resolution, I guess. Thank you very much. The next one is staff report, Brian Jardine, Director of Planning and Development. I guess I got that one too, didn't I?
Minutes of planning.
Got that update. And then the next one is can't see it. Next one is the minutes of the Planning Advisory. Is that that's where I'm at?
Yep, so moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Allier, second by Councillor O'Neill. Any questions or comments on that one? All in favor? Thank you very much. Community Service and Strategic Partnerships. This is the resolution at Staff Report 2024 by Rebecca Cotter, Manager of Communications and Community Engagement, regarding Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan update be received, and that Council approves a bylaw authorizing the Mayor and City Clerk to execute an agreement with Loyalist Center for Healthy Communities for services related to the evaluation and development of the city's next Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and that staff report back to Council as part of the 2025 budget process to identify and plan for any future project implementation and resourcing needs. So moved by Councillor McHugh, seconded by Councillor Sharp. Comments? Councillor Stidham.
Thank you, Worship. Just the second part of the resolution where it says staff report back to council as part of the 2025 budget process. I mean, we heard and we thought I was fairly clear that there would be no cost to it. So I'm just I'm wondering why this is being referred back to the budget.
Well, I can only imagine that they're trying to be prepared in case something develops out of their conversations. But again, council has the last say on whether we approve it or not.
Okay, I just don't understand. I feel like this whole project is completely outside of the budget scope, and if there's no cost to it, then it doesn't really need to come back unless there is something that's being identified or future projects that might be that are thoughts. I don't know if the staff.
Mr. Mayor, I think Director Grimmon's trying.
Yes, go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Stedel. Yes, certainly there is no cost in terms of executing this agreement. We have been carrying budget year after year for the duration of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan that can help us kind of execute some of the actions and recommendations of the plan. So that would be kind of that secondary piece. We were carrying budget for the previous plan, so if there is budgetary requirements similar to the previous number of years, then we would bring that forward as part of the budget process, not specifically to do with the agreement, but outcomes of what the findings are and the next stage of the updated plan.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we're all good? Okay, all in favor, support, thank you very much. And okay, the next one is proclamations. A resolution, Council proclaim August 31st, International Day of People of African Descent in the city of Quinte West, and further the Quinte West sign and the Veteran Skyway Bridge be illuminated in the color yellow on August 31st, 24, pending no scheduling conflict. Moved by Councillor McHugh, seconded by Councillor Katsoulis. Okay, comments or questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And the next is, I've got printed information and non-printed. So moving a seconder for printed and non-printed. Councillor McHugh moves it. Councillor Freeman seconds. Thank you. Any comments or questions on the information there? All in favor? Thank you. Next is notice of motion. Got a support for campgrounds resolution whereas the federal conservatives introduced Private Members Bill C-410, an act to amend the Income Tax Act for campgrounds. Is this coming up for the next, do you want to?
Yeah, it's a motion I brought forward. I was approached by some of the members of the campgrounds. I'm sure you're aware. We have quite a number of campgrounds down on
Yes.
Cotter Road and Barcombe Beach Road. And this, private members brought this forward. It's had its first reading. It'll be coming up for second reading shortly. Basically what it is, it's going to recognize these campgrounds as being small businesses. It'll change their designation in the Income Tax Act, hopefully reduce their income tax that they're payable, and they can use that money to further promote their business. I'd say it doesn't affect us municipally on our tax base at all in any way, shape, or form. They reached out and asked me personally, sent me a link to the site, and I felt being a counselor, I just couldn't sign it on my own. I wanted to make sure I had permission first, so I did approach our clerk, had him look into it, and we didn't see a problem. Hopefully getting support, like anything else that we get, the letters from people asking us to support, but I think it's a worthwhile project. It's certainly helping small business in the city of Quinte West, so.
So do you want to suspend the rules, move to suspend the rules and put this through tonight, or do you want to wait? What do you want to do?
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Pardon?
we don't need to suspend the rules because it's printed on the agenda, so council can consider this now.
Forward in time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor O'Neill.
The one thing that confused me under 13A, where it said cut taxes, it's really income taxes,
Income
not
taxes,
property
yeah,
taxes.
state right above.
Yes,
To amend the
it's
Income Tax
yeah.
Act for
Yeah.
campgrounds.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're just changing the type of corporation they are
They've
to a
done
small
it, they
business.
did it a few years
Make
ago,
it-
didn't
make
they?
them a small-
Yeah.
They
small
did it a few
business.
years ago, yeah. Councilor Quincy.
I don't know the exact time, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago, the
Yes.
Income Tax Act was amended to have these campgrounds actually pay more income tax. And if I believe what's happening here is this private members bill wants to change it back to what they were doing before. So it's not actually, in effect, if it passed, it would reduce their taxes, but it would reduce their income tax back to what they were paying more appropriately before a change was made about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay,
That's
so
how I
we'll-
understand
We'll
it.
leave it for next council, okay?
I can vote on it now or next council, up
It's
to
in
you.
the agenda, so we can vote on it.
I mean, we can do it, but okay, all right.
And I'll second it. I didn't know whether you had a second or not.
McHugh and Elliott moved and seconded. Any other comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you, okay. Anything under new business? New business, Councilor Katsoulis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to acknowledge another passing, but didn't want to infringe on Councilor Reed's time. So I'd just like to recognize the passing of retired OPP Sergeant Randy Blakely.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he was, as an officer, he was approachable, honest, and level-headed. Those are qualities you strive for. Not only that, but he was an overall good person, and I hold him in high regard.
Yes, thank you, I agree. I don't disagree.
And there was one other, the mayor and I attended the opening, and Councillor McHugh and Elliott, the opening of the Matthew Stikos Park in memorial for him.
Oh, yes, yes. Go ahead, do you want to say more about it, or?
I'm just glad we went, and it was very nice of Mr. Stikos to donate to the park and have it built as it was. And Director Angelo was also there.
What did we ask Director Angelo to do as a result of being there?
I didn't ask him to do anything. He does enough.
Oh, you were there, you asked him the same as I did. Yeah, well, what are we doing, Director? I mean, what are you doing?
I'll be honest, Your Worship, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you're looking south. You're looking south from the Stakos Park to help Mr. Stakos Housing continue to.
Oh, I know where you're getting at now. It's in relation to the trunk sewer
Yes.
that needs to come up from Fraser Park Drive all the way to the west end of Trenton to support his and other developments in that whole west end area of the Trenton ward.
Yes. Okay, thank you. See, I have to test his memory now and again, don't I? Councilor Coonsey.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. About 2 months ago, I made a weather request for the air show, and I was half right.
First time.
We know you're only half here, it's okay.
I have to thank the members of the CFB Trenton, all of the sponsors, the staff of the city of Quinte West. What a great show. My wife and I, we went out for lunch today together, and without any prodding from me, she reflected on what a beautiful day that was at the air show, and that she had a great time. And if the powers that be want to have another air show, I'm in full support of it. Thanks.
I don't disagree with the fact it was a fantastic air show. Yes, the weather wasn't 100, but it was meticulous. It was great, and to see what a pilot can do with a plane is just mind-boggling. In fact, some of those displays I couldn't look at. I had to turn and look towards the ground because I didn't see how they could possibly. Yeah, but they did.
They did it. It was.
I thank them so much.
And to everybody to put it all together. Like,
and we need also to encourage the federal government to continue to support the military and support the equipment they need.
Well, I understand the Prime Minister made a promise again.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope he's right. Anyways, anything else under new, Councillor Stedall?
And yeah, I agree, the air show was phenomenal, like everything was phenomenal right from the get-go. It was well done by everybody that was involved, and it was great to see so many people out, even on, especially the Sunday, it was packed, even Saturday it was packed. But and happy Canada Day. I think the Canada Day Committee did an excellent job in pulling that together this year, and it was really well done.
It was great, and thank you, Rebecca, for all the work that you did to make allowable allowances to get us there. Thank you. Yes, it all worked, and I thank our OPP and our fire for all the work you did as well, meeting with different groups and helping to move forward and make sure that people were where they needed to be. I didn't see or hear tell of any negative issues, so I thank you very much for the work you did. Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very briefly, Festival on the Bay is this weekend, of course, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The infamous, famous drone show will be Friday night at dusk. Compliments of Mr. Phillips and his company. Always a great time. The roads, Dundas will be closed from Division to Front, starting at 6 a.m. on Thursday to Saturday night at 7 p.m. So I want to put that out there, but please come down, support your local vendors. The DBIA has done a wonderful job, Lisa and Annette. They actually have more vendors for the first time since pre-COVID. They're using spots, vendor spots on the side street. So it's back to pre-COVID, even exceeding pre-COVID levels. So there's great entertainment all the days, especially Friday, Saturday. So come on out and support some local vendors.
Thank you. I'll just come back. Okay, anything else this way? Anyone? No, you're good? Okay. Councillor Armstrong.
Director Angela would like to talk about the Touch a Truck event.
Yes, that's good.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Just a reminder for council and the public that our annual Touch the Truck event in partnership and collaboration with Quinte West Library is next Wednesday outside here by City Hall from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we're encouraging all members of the public and children to come out, jump in a police car, a fire vehicle, a public works vehicle, see the electric Zamboni. The military is again partnering with us again this year, bring out some equipment. Hydro One will be there as well. Quinte Transit will be there. It'll be a great day, and the weather's looking really good for that day as well.
Okay, before you leave that topic, do you want to comment on just across the road here at our parking lot on the north side? What's just happened there related to hydro? Thank you.
Your Worship, if you're referring to the work that Hydro One did about a week and a half ago on replacement of a new pole there.
Yes.
Hydro One is upgrading some of their infrastructure throughout our community. That was one of the projects they identified last year, replacement of a pole And actually, the electricity that is coming into, and then from that pole, they can actually control that remotely from their head office out of the Toronto area. So new technology that's being employed in our community so they can provide better and faster service to our residents.
So, what, you say they can control it, but what do you mean by control it? They got switch?
Your worship, I believe there's remote switch gears, so then electronically or digitally, they can adjust power supplies coming to the pole and through the pole to different areas of the municipality. And this is just one of many poles they've put in and are planning on putting in throughout our community for more reliable hydro service in our area.
And if something should happen in one part of our city, what are they able to do with these new?
Rather than dispatching staff, they can actually control and adjust some electricity remotely.
To, instead of shutting it down?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Okay. That's happening all over, not just here, but we do not have in this province a surplus of power. We're just barely hanging on in some cases. Anyway, yeah, the upgrades are great, but they're not cheap. Anything else? Anything this way? Anything? Any other, anybody else on staff? Good? We're good? We're good. I need just confirmation, two for confirmation.
Got to do all the bylaws, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Bylaws. I need a mover and a seconder for bylaws. Councillor McHugh, Councillor Stedall, moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on bylaws? Yes.
Your worship, I just one comment on the bylaw 24092, which is the bylaw for the municipal funding for the community building fund. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I am going to bring a notice of motion to the next council so that the Canada Community Building Fund in the last 5 years hasn't increased any more than about 8%, even though the cost of living has gone up about, more than double that. And going forward, so this is tying them, the federal government into paying us less than 2% over the next 5 years. And so I don't want to hold up signing this agreement and getting the money that they promised, but the notice of motion will come forward to the next meeting, and I'll be requesting council consider it so that we can take the message to the AMO conference, which is in August, right following our council meeting.
That's another good point. CAO Clazy, any comments on AMO and what we've been, where we're at in terms of delegations and so on at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did apply for, I believe it was 3 or 4 delegations. We did hear back yesterday on one from Ministry of Transportation that they won't take our delegation at AMO, but they've offered up a meeting with the parliamentary assistant after the conference. So we'll be still taking that on. And once we know more about the other delegations, I'll let council know.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? I know. Okay,
2 and 2.
Pardon?
It's 2 and 2. 2 for German, 2 for.
2 for, okay, 2 and 2. 2 and 2, he says. Not 2 fingers or 2 hands? It's, I think we better go with the hands. Okay, 2 for confirmation and 2 for adjournment. That's what I need. You got 2, you're good. Thank you very much. A great day, and there's another change of command at the base tomorrow. I know that, so. We're in good hands. I was there